There's a room where three scientists are experimenting on the subject, and they keep cranking up this volume of serum pumped into the target. As the number reaches 99%, the subject can't take it anymore and it leads to a failure. The scientists don't show any emotion and just clear the room, moving on to another subject. A man in black overalls comes into the room with a large bag and approaches the table. On it is a young boy of about 16 years old with jet black hair and blue eyes. At the moment, there is no response from him. The man in black emotionlessly puts him in the bag and takes him to another room where failures are dumped into the abyss. In the abyss, there's a huge pile of over 1,000 bodies and the boy is thrown on top of them. There's finally a reaction from him, though tiny. His eyebrows shake a little and his eyes are open. Surprisingly, there's only calmness in them, one that shouldn't have been in such a young man's eyes. The young man is Zeras Celestia. He had been living in an orphanage and had been known as a genius till his gene results came in. Turns out his gene could only change the color of his hair and nothing else. At once he fell from his pedestal and all praises immediately turned into derisions. He was starved and later sold to this dark organization where he was used as a test subject. As he remembers all these events, hatred burns in his eyes and he seeks revenge. Unfortunately, he's losing too much blood and soon after he slips into deep darkness. He opens his eyes to an unfamiliar place where he sees different crystals. He thinks it might be his soul space. He touches one crystal and it immediately melts into him and changes him completely, corrupting his genes and giving him a stronger one. This new one is of the SSS grade and is called the Chaos Devouring System. One of its abilities is to absorb the life force of people he has deleted. As the evolution ends, he opens his eyes to the abyss and sees that he's still on the pile of bodies. He sits up and plans on how to escape when he hears the voice of the system. He is shocked and shoots some distance away, not noticing how he had covered double of what he normally should have. Meanwhile, the system gives him a mission to destroy the base where he is in and escape. After a short while, he comes to terms with the system and accepts the mission, jumping out of the abyss. Just as he jumps out, he hears footsteps approaching and he hides near the door. After a series of sounds, the man in black arrives, once again holding a bag, and as he's about to open it, Gale sneaks up on him and deletes him with an attack from behind. He changes into his clothes and puts on all his equipment, including a watch with a map function, showing places to be cleaned up with red dots. He arrives at one of the rooms with red dots and enters, seeing three scientists and the body of a cat-like monster on the table. After a small scuffle, he takes care of the two men and takes the hand of the female who was reaching for a red button and knocks her out. He binds her to a chair and gets some info of a purple card and the base head out of her before also deleting her. She had hid some info about the purple card from him which causes him to get tracked. The system notifies him about it, and just before leaving, he absorbs the life force of she and her companions, gaining 30 points. He quickly makes his way to the cross-marked doors which house the base head. Inside the luxurious room, a middle-aged man is enjoying a hot tub when an alert goes off, warning of an intruder. The man smiles and exits the tub, fully revealing his 1.9 meters tall frame which contains the powers of an awakened gene cultivator. His name is Chris Telenom, and he's the base head of this branch of the mutant organization. At the same time, Zeras arrives in front of a large door and swipes the purple card. The opening of the door is accompanied by roars, and a room full of beasts is shown. He releases all the beasts and hides nearby, waiting for the approaching guards to arrive. They rush into the room and a series of gunshots and screams are heard. 30 minutes later, Zeras enters the room and sees a lone guard on his last breaths, who tells him to prepare to join him in hell. Zeras is confused but just shoves that to the back of his mind and moves towards the base head's room. He enters it and starts searching around when he's stopped by a voice. He looks around for the owner but sees no one until he looks up at the ceiling. The base head is hanging from the ceiling, observing him playfully. He is asked by Chris, the base head, to join them and become a part of the mutant organization as he reaches for his weapon. His hand slows, and just as Chris relaxes, he pulls it out swiftly and starts releasing some shots. Chris takes that as his answer and starts attacking, beating Zeras back, and when he's about to capture him, Zeras activates his dash ability and speeds up. With this speed, he slices through Chris with his blade and deletes him, then makes a call with his last strength before passing out. He wakes up to a white surrounding and a hand on his chest. He follows the hand and sees an extremely beautiful white-haired girl that makes him go dumb for a second. After she leaves, he regains his calm and gets up, moving to a hall where he sees someone from the EIA. They talk about how he got into the situation and stuff, and after talking, he's told that it was because of him they were able to save more than 500 people from the base. As a reward, they give him two choices: to get a new house and to live a peaceful life, or to join them at the EIA. I don't know why it's made to seem like only while working in the EIA will he be able to come in contact with these supernatural things. But like bro, even if you choose the peaceful life, you still have the system and can still grow stronger and come in contact with the supernatural. Like, wasn't he living a normal life when he was sold and brought into the base to be used as an experiment? Yeah, but just like that last time, he might be on the defensive since he'll be ignorant of a lot, so I guess it makes sense why it's put like that. Back to the story. After deliberating for a while, Zeras chooses to join the EIA, and the man smiles and gives him some books to read, telling him that he will drop him off together with his granddaughter. Zeras later walks towards the north to his room. He had been told to avoid the south for some reason. Arriving at his room, he's dumbstruck to discover that they are on a spaceship. He sits down on the bed and calls out to the system, and a swarm of notifications pour in as he gets the rewards of his successful missions. At the bottom, he sees 20 unallocated points and distributes them, transforming his stats into this. Next, he checks his skills and abilities. Apart from dash, we see his other skills, from regeneration to poison immunity and so on. After them are two ability upgrade cards. Its use should be self-explanatory from the name. He uses them to upgrade the dash and chaos devouring skills, pushing them to level 2. Now he can burst out with triple his normal speed and can absorb life force of people either deleted by him or not. Before, he could only absorb life force from the people he deleted by himself. So, after the overall upgrade, he starts to prepare for the EIA test coming up in a week. He picks up one of the books and starts reading. From it, he gets to know about the Great Evolution. That is how the Earth was moved to a different galaxy and invaded by energy which changed all its inhabitants. Curious about the outside world, the humans took to space and met some aliens called the Sidorfs, and the meeting led to a war which brought about the first human alliance called the EIA. After the war, the purpose of the EIA was to regulate the gene cultivators and relate with alien groups. They as a group only accept powerful gene cultivators and are the ultimate guardians of the galaxy, ultimate guardians of Earth. Their current galaxy was named Limitless, and the energy that invaded was called mana. This mana changed the creatures of Earth, giving the beasts more physical abilities and changing the genes of the humans. Some genes were more powerful than others, and they were divided into grades from F grade to A grade. These genes could only be powered and sustained by a mana core in their bodies which could store mana, and the use of the mana core was only found out after years of experimenting, and the first cultivation stages were set up, from the star rank to the meteor rank, then the cosmic rank, before the galaxy rank, and each of them were divided into early, middle, late, and peak stages. New genetics are awakened after every breakthrough to a stage. Zeras reads all this and immediately starts trying out the method of absorbing mana. After a few minutes, he successfully awakens his core and falls asleep, not knowing the disturbance he was causing. All the mana in the surrounding area is getting sucked into his core, and the captain notices that and decides to help him out with more mana. Meanwhile, in a training room, Gaia, the girl with white hair, is training when she senses the disturbance Zeras is causing, and a bit of curiosity sprouts in her mind. Back in Zeras' room, he wakes up and cleans up the mess around him, and then notices something new. He can now see the mana around him. With his core awakened, his original F-rank gene, Morph, is upgraded to E rank, and he can now perfectly transform into anyone for a short while. His stats also increase and now look like this. After all that, he gets dressed. To be honest, I don't know what to make of this clothing description. Long trousers that reach the knees, what? Anyway, the ship arrives at the trial space, and the huge tower that pierces out of the world comes into view. Zeras and Gaia are dropped off and the spaceship leaves. Zeras looks around and finds out that Gaia has already taken off and disappeared into the crowd filled with humans and aliens, all waiting for the trial to begin. Oh, by the way, previously on the ship, Zeras had promised the Commander Chiron to help protect Gaia, his granddaughter. So after a while, the trial starts, and they are told that it's based on their potential. So basically, your potential determines how easy or difficult your trial will be. At this point, Zeras is sweating buckets. Remember the grade of his gene? Bro is cooked. He gets in the tower, and his mission is to defeat the fake king and become the new king of Atlantis. Basically, inside the tower, are like illusions of different worlds. So the context is that in his trial, the old king slept, and his adopted son, Samudra, can't be made the new king without first defeating the strongest warriors. So he's holding a contest now to do that, and Zera signs up for it. And by the way, this Samudra is the son of the enemy race that was raised by the king of Atlantis, but was inherently evil and greedy for the king's trident. So the alien race he comes from, Skull, loves collecting powerful weapons, and that's what caused the war against Atlantis that wiped out their entire race except for him, a little child. In the trial, Zeras completes some quests and his stats rise. Long story short, Zeras is trained by the king's advisor and becomes strong enough to defeat Samudra. After that, his trial is completed and is transported out of the tower. As he and the others leave the tower, the EIA agent congratulates them for successfully joining the group and starts to determine their hierarchy based on the tower points they got. The list is released and the top 10 are written in blue. He spots Gaia's name at 6th place and smiles. The list keeps rolling on, and he starts getting anxious until he sees his name revealed at 1st place. And then a golden light from the tower illuminates him, and everyone's eyes converge on him. After the results, they are led to a huge hall, and Zeras moves to one of the seats. But then a voice calls out to him from behind. He turns to find no one, and then a white-faced boy with a blindfold on appears right in front of his nose, scaring him. Yo, Infinite Void taking Gojo places, man. This boy's name is Queen Void Space, a member of one of the 9 families. You remember the 9 families? They're like Void Space family, Celestial, where Zeras comes from, and some others. So the boy's name is Queen Void Space, a member of one of the 9 families. And now the academy arc starts. So Zeras gets into the academy as a cadet and is about to catch C's in his room when Queen calls him for a tour. As he gets out, he discovers that their rooms are right beside each other, and the opposite door opens at this moment. Triton, the Elvian boy that comes out, is one they also know. So 3 of them begin their tour and get to the cafeteria. And just as they get there, 2 senior students set their eyes on them and try to bully them out of their credits. But Zeras grabs the senior's hand, and that's where we end off today, folks. Till next time.